This conference will now be recorded.
Please do not forget to sign in. Everyone sign in the sign-in sheet.
One, two. 9 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. Yep. It wasn't mandatory. And join me in with the pledge to allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please silence your cell phones if you haven't already done so. And General Manager Bossert, turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. First of all, good morning. Thank you all for attending. What you should have done is signed in, and there's a copy that was posted online of our Excel sheets, our database spreadsheets for the entire budget. But what we have is a working staff product that the supervisors that are present have, and my staff has been working on, that will present you very quickly, because that will be provided once the supervisors give me approval that this is the document to move forward with. This will be what we put on our website and provided for you all to give you the picture. Because the reality is, it'd be me coming into your home, looking at your check register, picking out a line item, and making a decision without any context, without a deeper understanding of the budget, your family budget. That's what you all are looking at and have been looking at with spreadsheets. The budget for Sun and Lake is a very extensive monster that covers multiple departments, multi-million dollars, and you need to have the context to ask the right questions. I'm big about being informed, then making informed decisions. So what we will provide, not only my staff, but to our supervisors for their final approval, is the whole picture. We will paint the picture for you for the budget to include our residents' input, and then move out with an approval on 29 August. That's what you're seeing on the screen in front of you. It's really how we're presenting the data. The data hasn't changed. The Excel sheets are the same that we've been working on for months, except little tweaks here and there with guidance from the board. So that feeding the painting the picture. The intent of this is a pure public comment meeting on the budget for your 3 minutes, so I can package up those comments, present it to the board for 29 August after we staff your comments. You may have very valid comments that need a little bit more context, then I'll present that information to my board so they can make the final decision on 29 August. That's why it's not mandatory for the board to be here. It's public comments to your general manager on the budget. That's the intent of this meeting. It's how we do it in government circles, all right? Go to the next slide. Okay, there's a categories we're gonna cover. Kind of very quickly to just show you the context of what we're talking about, our budget. Next slide. Okay, there's some assumptions that we start as staff. This is straight out of our policy manual. This will help you all understand why we've made some of the decisions as a staff recommendation. We will have a balanced budget, cut and dry, straight out of the policy book. We have to maintain a reserve. So let's understand a very quick 101 on special districts. We are not a city or a village in Florida. If we defunct tomorrow, the state's not going to walk in and save the day. We have mandated, based on our policy, based on the county, that we have to have a working reserve, 17%, that if we default in whatever capacity, we can take care of our own business, and then the county will step in and make a decision on the life, the future of Sun and Lake. That is different from a city or a village. Okay, so understand that. Thereby, we always have to have $2.5 million. It's based on your budget. It's $2.5 million sitting in a reserve, not tied up into investments, not tied up into a CD, I can't touch for 6 years, sitting in our general fund that if we have to have a major emergency, we can dip into that into the general fund. So understand that. Remember that number. Surplus income, we got some guidance in our board or in our policy book that at the end of the year, if we have surplus, then there's some expectations based on the rules of what we should do with that surplus. Doesn't go into a piggy bank, doesn't go into a slush fund, doesn't do anything like that. It's meant specifically for a few things: capital replacement projects, replenish, retire, or pay off some debt. We don't have a lot of debt, if not any. and in capital improvements. That's what should happen at the end of the year with excess money if for some reason we had a boon of whatever. Okay? We will present a schedule after our audit, which will happen probably in the December timeframe. Audit's complete. Then my job is to present to the supervisors, this is our schedule of what we're going to do with the surpluses from the last fiscal year. And we will present that for approval of the board for action. Golf operation, the course and the clubhouse will be self-supporting operation. That's written in our policy, and trust me, I've been brought on here to adhere to that, to enforce that. It's a self-supporting operation. If there's tightening of the belt, that's my job working with that man right there. And we'll make sure the belt is tightened before I say, help, I need district help. That's why you hired me. The district maintenance assessments, this has been a little confusion this year. The district maintenance assessment fees that we charge based on county rules will be set before August 31st. That's the only thing that has to be set before August 31st. Everything else with our budget planning, cycle, approvals continues all the way up to the last day in September. We have that luxury. We will continue to build that plan. But understand, moving forward year after year, when we're dealing with assessments, we have to make an earlier decision, recommendation from the staff to the board that by August 31st, we gavel in what the assessments will be. And then I use that to help flesh out the rest of the budget. That's the only thing that has a hard timeline. Everything else, the last timeline is 29 September. We can gavel in the final budget and we're good for 1 October. Next slide. All right, I won't read this. This is the budget guidance, the budget message you're getting from your general manager that once the budget's approved, this is me explaining to you the details of what you're reading. The board can provide something, the president can provide something. I would ask for that moving forward, but from the general manager's seat that's in charge of your budget preparation, you're going to get a product like that that's going to be posted on our website to explain to you, this is the budget. This is what we did. This is the goodness. This is the badness. This is why we had the raise. Just going to lay it all out to you, fully transparent. So I won't read that in detail. The big thing I want to foot stomp, next year is our 50th anniversary for Sun and Lake. That's a big deal. It's a big deal for districts, big deal for us. So we need to make sure that this is going to be around for another 50 years. My job. So understand that's what we are focused on, that we hit a critical point in time. And some of you maybe were here when it started. I don't know. But we hit a critical point in time that my job is working on budgets like this in the future, keep the goodness of Sun and Lake going for another 50, another 100, and so on. Next slide. And next slide. All right, something you haven't seen in the past, we'll see this internally. It'll be available on our website. Next year in the March timeframe, there'll be some budget guidance from my desk to all my departments. It'll lay out very early in the budget cycle how much a pay raise, what do we want to buy, what do we want to do, where we're making cuts, what's the max cuts, what's the max by increases. It'll be from my desk as my assess it with my finance director. We will assess the plan and I'll provide that guidance to all my departments. That'll get the ball rolling with them to prepare the package. The next guidance I ask for is board guidance, any specific programs, plans, or anything that they would like to see that we start injecting into the process. That's the next step. That'll probably happen in the May timeframe, giving us time to start working on our product. It's just an example, but if you go through it, you'll see there'll be a focus on how the most increase will do. If we're doing a cost of living raise for our pay for our employees, it covers all the gamut of areas when it comes to our budget. Next slide. Sun and Lake's a great place. It's a big place. It's a city. We kind of think of it as a subdivision, maybe an HOA. It's a city. You have a fully functioning public works department. We have 90 miles of roads. We have a water plant, couple wastewater plants. We do everything from security to everything. And we need to understand that. The red dots, the red stars on that map shows in next year's budget, we are not focused on one area, one thing. We have many irons in the fire that addresses across Sun and Lakes. And that's just a snapshot of some of the goodness that's going on. Everything from road repairs, fixing pipes, fixing a clubhouse, maybe something on the golf course, doing something in the pool area, that type of stuff. So it kind of paints a picture that we're all over. We've planned it all over. And it's going to touch all the areas around Sun and Lake, so no one's getting any privileges or priorities. My job is to level the field and make sure we touch everywhere possible with all the money that we got for the best value for y'all. Next slide. We got some updates on this. That's just your staff, supervisors, as well as staff. It'll show you their tenure, so you get a sense of our leadership. Now, there's some date changes here that I owe you, so don't get too hung up on that. Next slide. All right, we have a pretty robust team here at Sun and Lake. Y'all may just walk into the front office there, see a couple ladies up front taking bills, see maybe me or one of our directors rolling around and think, we got 10, 15 people. All right, you see right there, Sun and Lake employs, to include my clubhouse and my golf course, about 154 people to run our little city. A lot of folks across many departments. That's everything from a part-timer to a full-timer to a contractor. So we got to take care of that. My job is to herd all them cats, make sure we're doing all the right things for Sun and Lake. And that's broken down by your departments, as you see. We got roads, finance, utilities, community service, so on. And then all the way up through your general manager, then my board. Now, the great thing about that chart, if you got a problem with any of those people in the blue below, come see me. Come see that guy in the green. That's your way to get things fixed and done to deal with those folks, because they're my responsibility. And if my supervisors have a problem with any of those people, they come see me. That's how we work. That's how it should work. And trust me, I will be the firmest foot stomp to make sure it works that way. Because then I will hold these people accountable. And if they got to go, they got to go. But if I got to reward them, I'm going to reward them. That's how we do things. Next. There's some proposed, there's been a lot of feedback from citizens, from staff, from supervisors. We got one meeting a month. It's a long meeting. It's a lot of issues going on. We can't talk in between meetings. So something I'm going to propose to my supervisors moving forward, if they have an appetite for this with timing of their schedules, is that to help focus the discussion in our meetings, we have some committees that are noticed, open to the public, have supervisor involvement, but staff involvement and community feedback. But it's a focused topic. For example, that first one, operations, infrastructure, and safety. If we have that type of committee, if you're involved with an issue with that, you come here, and that's all we're talking about. Not talking about trash can pickup, not talking about the pool. I'm talking about those things. And then there's supervisors, a smaller group of supervisors that are listening, that they can then advocate whatever we discuss at that committee to the full board and expedite things. Because if I got 3 supervisors that agree with something, they bring it to the board meeting, it's easier to discuss, shorter time frame, we can get things done and moving. This is your workshops, this is your work sessions. So this will be something that the president and I will discuss with the board, see if there's an appetite for this. But if there is, I think it'll find some efficiencies and focus of our staff, working with supervisors, working with citizens to focus on topics, to knock these big issues down that we have across the board. Next slide. We got a lot of stuff. We got roads, we got accessible parcels, we got parks, we got equipment, we got wells. This is just a summary of all the stuff that I got to be responsible for to ask you all for money. It ain't just a district office where you pay a bill. It ain't just a clubhouse to go spend some money, eat a meal, and play some golf. It's a lot of stuff. So it ties into why we need what we're asking for on an annual basis. On the bottom corner there, you'll see there's a population. Right now, we're hovering about 10,400 people live in Sun and Lake. It's a lot of folks. There's some out-of-staters, smaller portion. You see the out-of-state Florida number there. But the most physically live here, maybe part-time, but they live in Florida, they live here. That's my population that I'm responsible for. I need to know how that ebbs and sways and weighs in time to make sure we're providing the right resources for all those folks. Next slide. All right, I'm a big proponent of staff training because I owe you the most professional, ready, and relevant staff to get the job done. This is a snapshot in time of our training as a staff. In 2023, it'll grow over time. I'll be putting money towards their training, getting them more professional, so when they engage you, when you ask them to do things for us as Sun and Lake, you're getting the best prime for your buck. because they're trained, they're ready, they can do the job. And then over time, we rely less on contractors because I hired the right person who's trained to do their job. That's how I operate. So you'll see that the point on here I like to make, we have a kind of young staff. There's been a lot of turnover. 5 years is average years of service. We are below even the region here, that living wage for an employee in the Sebring area. Living wage is a state calculation, it's a federal calculation. And the only way we're going to get good folks to do good work for our citizens is to make sure we're paying them right, giving them the right benefits. My job is to juggle those balls. But right there, just based on what that guidance is from our state, we're not doing so well. Maybe that's why we have young staff. That's maybe why we have a lot of turnover. Again, my job to analyze that, provide some guidance of how we fix that. And then we have some potential departures in the next few years and some high-level departures that I got to plan for, make sure I got some bench where when that person leaves, we're not pulling our hair out. Next slide. It's a cut and dry mission statement for the Sun and Lake District. We're self-governing, we're financially sound, we provide protection, government services, and recreation for all our residents. That's it. You don't see nothing there that golf course is number one. You don't see nothing there that HOAs rule the day. That's the mission of Sun and Lake. That's why y'all chose to live here. Next. The values of our district. We're a hometown feel with premier services. That's the overarching vision of Sun and Lake. Why everyone chose to live here. It's safe, it's secure, they're financially responsible with their money. It's a sustainable, environmentally focused development, family friendly, incomparable district services compared to a Sebring or an Avon Park or a Lake Placid. We should be incomparable. That's why we get people here. And you see some of the goals that I will assign missions to make sure we reach those goals based on what the board tells me. Next slide. When you build a budget, you tie it to a strategic plan, you put goals and measurable gates that we all can explain and make sure we meet. So for me, when we address our values and we go towards our strategic goals, there should be very specific things in our budget that say we're going towards mission accomplishment here. We're achieving a goal. So you see some of the snapshot of things that what we've done in this budget to reach our strategic goals, to reach our district values. What's in yellow is a discussion ongoing of how we're going to pay for this monstrosity of a brand new wastewater plant in 4 to 5 years. That's an ongoing discussion the board has had. I'm going to get heavy involved in that, and we're going to have to paint that picture with our residents of what our plan is moving forward on that. Next slide. All right, this is an eye chart. This just gives you an idea that I'm working to provide a product to my board of the strategic plan for Sun and Lake for 10 years out. That's what I get paid for. That's why you elect these folks up here. We're not worried about what's happening today. That's, again, my job and my staff's. We're worried about what's happening 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years from now. So there's a plan that ties in. What's our budget going to look like? What's our staffing going to look like? What's our strategic issues? What's the big muscle moves in Sun and Lake, from buying equipment to fixing roads, all that fun stuff? We have to lay that out. Nothing should be a surprise to us. Well, we got enough to worry about in Florida. We'll worry about a hurricane being a surprise, and we'll address it. But I should not be surprised that I got to fix a road. I should not be surprised that I got to replace a water plant. There should be a plan for that. Next slide. This is the walk-away slide that I would ask every supervisor, every staff member, every citizen, that once we slap the table on this budget for 2024, these things will happen for the goodness of all. We'll replace roads. We'll fix wells. We'll buy some equipment. We'll pay our staff. We'll train our staff. We'll throw some money into the clubhouse. We'll put some money into a fund for our future wastewater plan. It's the takeaway. And it's actually measurable that at the end of next year, I owe you the report card on this. Did I achieve this as your general manager? If I did it, talk about it in my review. If I did, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next year. Next slide. All right, assessments. In red is what the current year proposed are that were approved back last month, last meeting. You see the glide path from the beginning of our assessments. It's ticked up a little bit, yes. Look at the averages. This is where you need to have the whole picture, not just a snapshot where I pay a lot this year. You need to have the whole picture. we have kept just with inflation the entire time our assessments as they ticked up every year. That's just breaking even. That's not throwing in a pandemic. That's not throwing in a hurricane. That's not throwing anything. That's just barely breaking even with inflation. And that's, oh, by the way, if inflation is staggered. That's not if inflation shoots up 10% in 1 year like it did on us. So that kind of, you got to understand that when it comes to this. So our assessments are our mainstay and need to keep us appropriately fueled to do the missions for y'all. That's showing across a few of our main categories. Golf people that live on the course, people that don't have a road, people that have a road, and so on. We have 35 categories of assessments. My job working with staff is to really deep dive into, are we charging everyone an appropriate amount when it comes to assessments? That's been an ongoing issue. Does this guy that live on a golf course that pays $880 a month, is he getting, or he or she getting charged appropriately compared to the big hospital that sits there on our road? My job is to figure that out. What's that right number? Present it to the board. Next slide. You'll quickly see here, if you scan the numbers, even with a 5% raise, some of those will just stand out right in your face. Oh, wait a minute. That office building's paying more than me in my little house sitting on, the 15th hole. Come on now. So that's my job, that I got to work on that with our staff of, do we have the right parameters when it comes to somebody that's out in the back 40 here that doesn't have a road, doesn't have a septic, doesn't have a well, doesn't have anything, has a piece of land out there, and what are they paying compared to the guy sitting at the front gate? My job, all right? More to follow on that. Next slide. This is me working with the county. I'm going to give you apple-to-apple comparison. We have assessments. We charge you all for certain things here, but you got to understand there's a bigger picture when it comes to property taxes and so on. So I want to be able to show you how we compare with our surrounding friends. How much is the county peaking up compared to Sun and Lake and vice versa? So work in progress. Hopefully have that information from the county soon. Next slide. All right, total Sun and Lake reserve funding, revenues. You put all the buckets of money together at the beginning of this year, we're going to get about $12.792 million. That's across all our buckets, from golf, to restaurant, to assessments, to FEMA, to whatever. You see there, we've kind of, a couple years ago, 2019, 10.7 million. We have some projections based on some initiatives we're doing that'll go up to 15 million in the near future. But, it is less than last year because we had some big insurance money last year because of the hurricane and so on. Next slide. When you break that down into by entity, by department, it gives you a little bit clearer understanding that our assessed values or our assessment is up there. The golf, the restaurant, the utilities, and then there's other miscellaneous income. You add all those buckets together, it gets you your 12.7 million. Again, somewhat flat. It's not a big increase, but there are some projections moving into 2016, 2017 based on the information we're gathering now to set us for success in those future years. Next slide. Again, working with a comparison with the county here. Don't worry about this one. Next slide. All right, the big bucket items for revenue for 2024. You see it by category with a comparison of what happened in 2023. Basically, we're down a little bit because of the insurance settlements, FEMA money, and that type stuff. So it's a little bit less. But if you look by the category, in some of our categories of utilities, restaurant, club revenue, it's higher. They are profitable. They are making money. We are not having to support them. They are self-sustaining. Let's get that clear to everyone listening and in this room. They are self-sustaining. I don't care if you're a member, you're a resident, I don't care if you're a guy outside that comes from Avon Park to play. We are making our golf and our restaurant profitable. Next slide. Okay, the top part is guaranteed based on our calculations when it comes to assessment, utility increases, and so on. In yellow is what we expect to get, but I'm not going to count my chickens before they're hatched. That's what we expect to get next year. Based on, once we get these new meters in, it gives me an accurate reading, not an estimate. I'm going to be able to charge my hospital the right money. I'm going to be able to charge those office buildings the right amount, not some hand wave estimate. Okay? So that's going to be some additional revenue that we can't plan for but expect. Got some county money coming for Schumacher Road extension. We have some grants that are pending from FEMA and some other entities. We have net new construction that unless the market drops on us next year, we are going to benefit by over 100 new homes in Sun and Lake. And we get $7,000 a lot that injects money into us as Sun and Lake. That's something we need to know about, plan for, and expect. Work with our developers to get those numbers higher. Because if we do that, then I can tell these folks, you know what? Assessments are good. We got the right revenue from the right sources. Next. All right. The end of year we anticipate, or end of year anticipation. We're going to make about 12.7. I've been foot stomping that. You have what we think we're going to end the year with. We got some money in restricted funds. We got some money in a wastewater reserve. We got some general revenue funds that are going to roll over. Remember that 2.5 million number. We have to keep them that way. So at the end of the year, we're going to have about a $5.3 million number that'll take us into 2024. Then I'm going to throw 12.7 million on top of that. What we would do, what I recommend to my board is that there's 4.2 million that I'm putting in a lockbox. Think back to the good old Bush days. It's a lockbox. We ain't going to touch it. This one is true. We ain't going to touch it. Okay? So we're going to lock those reserves, and then the rest of the money we can use for operations at Sun and Lake. So when you talk big picture numbers, understand that Sun and Lake, when you add all that stuff, when you're sitting at your home kitchen table and you're adding what you're going to make next year with what you got in your bank, those two numbers should equal a total, and that's what you're worth. For us, Sun and Lake, we're worth about $18.2 million next year when you count all that stuff. It's a little bit less from last year because we spent some money. Spent some on critical projects. Next slide. This is as simple as I can make it. If I could explain this to my kids, I can explain it to you all. I can explain it to these folks. I can explain it to my board. This is pretty damn simple. At the end of the day, the end of this year, I'm going to have X amount of money left, 5.3 million. I'm going to take 4.2 million, put it into our restricted funds. Don't touch it. We're going to roll over some money, about $1 million. Now that big money bag in the middle is what we are going to make a Sun and Lake district with assessments, other income. About 4 million plus a little change. My utilities, that two numbers to the top between water and wastewater, are going to put another 3.3 million into the kitty. My golf and my restaurant are going to throw about another 4.9 million into the kitty. So at the end of the day, revenue-wise, we are sitting about 13.7 million. That's what we will collect over the year. We ain't going to collect it all in 1 October, over the year. Operationally, to function as Sun and Lake, to make sure we're safe, secure, got good roads, got good security, got a great pool, got a great golf course, a great restaurant, we're going to spend about $11.7 million. Now there's $1 million in what we call special projects, capital improvement projects, and so on. You add those two numbers together. So the true operational cost for running Sun and Lake is $12.8 million. Okay. Oh, I look to the left. We're making 13.7 million. That's a good thing. That's what we want to do in our homes. That's what we want to do here. So at the end of the year, I'm going to have just shy of $1 million. I hope nothing bad happens. And what did I take out? 14.2 million. I'm going to slap that back into the kitty. Starting 1 October of next year, I will be able to come back to my board and say we should have a $5.3 million amount before we even talk about 2024, 2025. Having those numbers, having those facts, making sure we met all those gates, I can have informed decisions with my board. Do we need to raise anything? Do we need to fund something differently? Do we need to do X, Y, and Z? But without painting that picture, we may do some bad decision making. Not my job to do that for y'all, for these folks here. So that's a simplistic view of the big picture of how the Sun and Lake budget flows in through the year, flows out. And it gives me some measurable goals using our monthly financial statements to inform the board. Are we on track? Are we off track? Do we need to do a budget amendment? Are we good? Those type decisions. Next slide. Major expenses, we're taking care of our staff. We had a big increase in employee health care. That's just the nature of the beast. We're doing the water meter replacement, an ongoing project. That's about $300,000 a year that we have to put towards that till we're done that program. We're having some major road repairs, some utility upgrades, and then some major projects, Florida Avenue waterline, manholes in Tanglewood, continuing swale clearing based on what the hurricane did to us. Some golf course improvements, but they're really Sun and Lake improvements. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So that's just that's a snapshot. We're doing a lot more than that you saw. Next slide. All right, this is that number you saw, about 1.3 million of capital improvements. If it's in yellow, it's already baked into our budget, our operational budget for my departments. So that's why that number's not going to match that slide that had all the funny pictures on it. So it's about 1 million that across Sun and Lake, we're having to buy some capital improvements or fix some big things that is required of us to stay premier services, to stay relevant, and to stay ready to serve y'all. Next slide. All right, this is our restricted reserves. This is the money in the bank. This is our savings account in Sun and Lake. This is across all our buckets of money that we should not be touching unless it's an emergency, unless the board says execute because we see something on the horizon. So you see the buckets starts in September, October. We have a pretty robust reserve. We have some interest that's going to come throughout the year, and then we're going to put some more money into it. My goal is throughout the year to be able to invest $250,000 continuing into our reserves to make sure they're robust enough to be successful. So we're protected. So if a hurricane comes, I'm not waiting a year for a FEMA to pay me off. I'm taking care of your problem today. That type of discussion. We've made a decision, the board made a decision last month to put in some excess revenue from this year, $300,000, into our reserves for the wastewater plant. So that's what you see right there. And then we have some interest. We're going to work on the interest because we're woefully getting not what we're supposed to be getting. So we're going to work on that. Not going to do no crazy investing, but we got to make sure we're getting full capacity of our investments where they're at, be it a CD or so on. The only thing I would highlight on that, where it says the prime CIP, that is the account that the board has directed me to designate for our future wastewater plant. So we've picked one line item, we funded it, it had some money in it, we're going to continuing put money in it, and that's going to be that bucket of money we're building for this hard decision that we have to make. It's not that we need or want to make or would like to make, we have to make for our new wastewater plant to service the entire Sun and Lake community. So that's the line item that you can follow, that I'll be able to report to the board. We're building our funds in there. So when we have to get that $35 million loan, we will have the down payment. We will have the money to pay the contractor to start pushing dirt. Instead of just saying, catching us the day before and say, oh, well, how are we going to pay for this thing? We don't want to be in that situation. Next slide. All right, there's your Sun and Lake revenue. That's all the money coming in. Slap it over your dollar. 35 cents of everything that comes into Sun and Lake is from assessments. Every dollar we take, 35 cents comes from assessments. Here's the interesting thing. Your golf and your restaurant bring in how much? I got to see. 38 cents. So my golf and my restaurant bring in 38 cents of every dollar to Sun and Lake. Remember that number. Because then this is going to stick a fork in this discussion that I've been hearing since I got here. We're having to fund this golf course. We're having to throw money at this thing. 38 cents of every dollar we get comes strictly from them, be they a member or a non-member. Be they a person that lives here and eats at the restaurant, be it someone living in Sebring that comes and eats at our restaurant. Next slide. I'm going to hold the anticipation on what I just said. This is just on our assessments. So with the assessment money, that 36 cents that we get in assessments, that's where your dollars go. That's where your pennies go. It's across the spectrum of things: roads, maintenance, security, code enforcement, and so on. So it gives you an idea that at $4.4 million, this is a simple thing. Now, we're only spending less than 2 cents on, what is that, code enforcement down there? If it's a problem, you all think it's a problem, they think it's a problem, I need to spend more there. That's how we do things, okay? Next slide. Okay, this is the total cost to operate Sun and Lake. This is that big $12 million number. So the total cost to operate Sun and Lake, when it comes to the restaurant and the golf course is it costs us 36 cents on every dollar we spend to operate those things. It's a lot. There's a small margin of profit there, but that's working with that manager there that we will work on that divide getting bigger, but it's profitable and we're not having to dip into this pocket to pay them. So let's squash that fact. That's a fact. They bring in 38 cents, we spend 36 cents, and oh, by the way, there's 2 cents of every dollar put in our pocket. That 2 cents adds up over a multi-million-dollar budget. Okay? And then that's across the other spectrum of ways of our costs when it comes to every dollar we spend at Sun and Lake. How much we're spending on code enforcement, how much we're spending on roads, how much we're spending on our utilities, and so on. So again, let's stick to facts. Let's stick to the right data. Let's talk the right numbers. Let's get drama, emotion, all that stuff out of it, and let's focus on the issues. Because if we have an issue, we can resolve it all together rather than bantering back and forth. Next slide. All right, the cost per assessed parcel. Now, this is a difficult one that I'm going to have to do some deep diving with my staff, accountants, and so on. It's hard to do it based on your assessment. Everyone pays an assessment, but they get services. But you may be paying an $800 assessment, and you may be paying a $120 assessment, but you're getting the same services. So it's a hard comparison. We're going to work on how to present that data to you a lot better. So we did it on the assessed parcels. Every parcel in Sun and Lake, there's an assessment against it. It's about 12,000 of them. We could own some. You all own some. Restaurant, or not the restaurant, but the hospital, they all own some, but it's 12,000. When you break it down to that for this small part, for every parcel, there's a contribution that they make to Sun and Lake. That's a very, very generous breakdown. It's probably a lot less. It's very much so a lot less. So for every parcel, I don't care if you got a house on it, you're sitting on a golf course, or you're out in the back 40 and you got nothing except trees around you, you're paying about $4 a year for a premier golf course and clubhouse. That's it. Ain't no more than that. That's it. So go to Starbucks, get your coffee. You just contributed to the Sun Lake Golf Course and Clubhouse. I would recommend you come to us to get your coffee, and then you're doing a double shot. All right? But that's it. And across the other spectrum there. So my job is to make sure that that picture is a more refined and accurate number. This is on the high end. Because exactly that guy out there paying $180 a month for a lot with no trees on it, he's probably not paying $4. He's probably paying like $2, $1.50 to the golf course. But guess what? If we have a premier golf course, a great restaurant, a great clubhouse, great community activities, what happens? People come to live here, stay here, pay taxes, pay assessments, and we all benefit. Next. I'm not going to go with this because this is what you got in your hands. This is the buy line item. This is baked into our budget. You all have the details. We're going to scan through these real quick. We're not even going to look at them. Let's go. So this is by department. It's the same numbers we've been talking about. You all been talking about for many, many months. And that's what that's why I want your feedback on, but we're going to blow through these to get to the end. Next, keep going. So I'm not going to get away from the data. You all like the data. Some of you all need the data. But I need to paint that bigger picture for you all. Keep going. I hope this is somewhat informative. I hope it's getting back to what y'all used to do. You used to have some nice budgets. We got away from it for a few years. We need to get back to it because that's what you do in government service. You paint the right pictures for the right people for the right decision making. So. Okay, right there. All right. I'm a big proponent of making sure we have the right staff, trained the right way, paid the right, so they do the right jobs for us all. We do have some contracts out there that I'm going to take a hard look at all the time to see if I'm getting value for my money. So right now we spend about $1.4 million in contracts, everything from IT to my damn lawyer, to the insurance, to everything. We're going to go to 1.3 million based on some cost savings possibly here and there. But again, that's going to be my assessment to the board recommending we don't need this contract because we can do it in-house. But trust me and be aware that I am very observant of this. We'll manage it and we'll make the right decisions because I'm like y'all. I want to make sure my money's going to the right things. All right. Next. Payroll. This is an eye chart. I'm not even going to spend any time on it too much. It's a big payroll. It's about $5.3 million that we paid to our entirety. Everybody from me down to the greenskeeper, down to the guy that cuts grass on the, on Deer Run, whatever, to the lady that cleans this building, all that stuff. So it's an enormous project or a payroll, but it's also my job to manage it, make sure we're getting the bang for our buck, and make sure we're providing the right amount, not only the pay column, but the right amount when it comes to benefits. So we're getting the right quality people that stay with us long term and do you God's good service. All right? Next. These are just examples. We don't have the data right now. We're building it because I want you to make sure you all understand how much time, energy, money, and resources are going into our water department, our wastewater department, because they are very comparable to a Sebring or Avon Park or Lake Placid. They're doing great yeoman's work, and it's a very small staff. So I'm building some products mirrored off of our surrounding communities that'll show you that you're getting an extreme value for your money when it comes to our utility department. Next, let's go through these next three. It'll show you how much revenue. It'll show you how the breakdown is on a dollar and so on. Keep going. You're fine. Next. Keep going. All right. We don't have debt, but once we get to there, because we're going to get there with a wastewater plant. There's no way we got $35 million unless some of you all are going to give us some money. You got $35 million in your back pocket. Thank you. Come on by. I'll buy you a steak, and we'll take this thing and we'll knock it out. But right now, painting the picture forward, anytime we take district debt, I'll be able to show you this data that shows you what we're building. Again, an example from another community. What we got, how much we're going to pay every year, what it's going to, and then what's our debt utilization rate. That's my job to manage that for you all. Next. So you'll have some data points like that, hopefully for not the next 3, 4, 5 years till we get our wastewater plant. Next. Okay, we had a good inject of some federal money, state money, county money. We're working on getting the hard numbers because unlike other states, Florida did a little differently. They gave a bucket of this COVID money. They threw it at the state, and every state did it differently. Where I came from, Wisconsin, that money came straight to me, my checkbook, and I'm able to do that stuff right away. You all in Florida did it differently. Our state kept a big bucket of money. You parceled it out to your counties, and unless you're a big city or village, you didn't get money direct. So we as a district had to put our hat in hand. County helped me out. And we're gathering those data points to provide this update to you to show you that our federal government, our state government did help Sun on Lake. And we owe you that number of money, what it was for the benefit of us all. Everything from a playground to building or getting pumps for our water treatment plants, a bunch of stuff. So this is more to follow. I'll hopefully have this information by August 29th. Next. Way ahead, your comments get staffed, presented to them. 29 August. We slap the final table on the budget, we go live, and then I'm in execution mode, and I'm already starting 2024, 2025 budget. That's the plan. We will publish one more time in the newspaper in September. It'll be a one-page snapshot of the Sun and Lake budget for everyone to see. So yeah, you can go online and look at it, but you'll see an example here. There'll be a one-page in the newspaper by our 3 categories that'll show you what our Sun and Lake budget is for the public to see, full record, full disclosure. And then we start with monthly snapshots. We start doing any budget amendments. I'm big about that because we have to have a firm tracking of what we're doing, not just handshake deals, not so that happened at some meeting somewhere. No, it's a budget amendment. We fix it, and we make sure it's codified properly. And then we start the process in March of next year for 2024, 2025. Next. The recommendations, we need to build a proper timeline for a wastewater plant. We have a $35 million best case scenario looming debt that I owe you the plan for Sun and Lake to be successful, that it's not painful. It's an expected accident. We're not going to sit on a sideline and watch the accident. We're going to be preventing the accident. That's my job. All right, we got to get some work on our strategic vision and district vision to make sure we can fund it properly. So I need guidance from citizens. I need guidance from my board. What does the future of Sun and Lake look like 3, 5, 10 years from now? So we can start planning appropriately and make sure it's funded appropriately. We're always going to review your contracts. We're going to build a funding mechanism for certain things, and we will become very aggressive on grants. The money is there, trust me. From the feds to the state to local, money is there. Is it a little pain to get? Yes, but I'll endure a little pain if I'm going to get a bonus, right? So we will put a lot of energy in getting money that's not out of your wallet, it's out of someone else's wallet that comes help Sun and Lake. Next. So in that brief, which will be online, what will be presented to you all at the next meeting, 29 August, you'll have those sheets, but there's a very small version of what I just went through. You'll get the guidance. Next. Next, keep going. You'll get, that's the one pager in the newspaper. So at the end of the day, that'll be slapped in there. President's signature's on there. My signature's on there as your lead for the budget. And it'll show you by category what we're spending, what's our total income, what's our total revenue, what's our reserves, and then we're final in the paper. That's what will be shown in September after we approve the budget 29 August. Next. And then these are just by your categories. Again, you have these documents. This is by your departments, your overarching budget by departments and certain line numbers, but not all the line numbers, just the big buckets. Next, and next, and next. And you'll have that nice little slide you put on your refrigerator and always talk about your budget to your friends and family. Next. And then you'll have this. So at the pool, at the golf course, at the bar. This is what Southern Lake's doing for us. Thank you very much, Southern Lake. All right. So you'll have that information as well. Next. That's all I have. So now I would open it up to public comment. Come to the podium, give us your feedback. You have 3 minutes. Thank you very much. It's a quiet group. Look at that. No one.
Should be a green.
Test.
There you go. You're on.
Daniel Garvin, Calatrava, 4505. Well, there's a new sheriff in town, obviously. I don't know, I love the way it's been put together. You've obviously done a lot of work. I haven't seen a lot of smiles in the other people here, so I guess everybody's been working hard. And welcome. I was going to ask, and I think you answered the question. I was going to ask if there's a lot of information given that's not printed. Is it printed somewhere or is it available? So, some of the information was very informative. And is what took place there?
Not posted yet, sir. I'm waiting on the board to say if they're comfortable with how that presentation is, because it's their product at the end of the day. I will more than happy slap that on the website for public consumption. It's really a staff document that we've been working. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yep.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's it. That was a
Any
softball. Come on now.
Any other comments? Well, I think he's provided you with the information that you could share with your associates out there, your peers.
Anything online?
Somehow we would
Anything
like to
online?
get more people involved. We've tried various things and invariably it seems like this is the crowd.
Anybody online?
But, okay, maybe we got one more comment coming.
We're also checking online, sir. Make sure.
Okay. Hi,
Do I give my name?
please.
Fred Corey, Pebble Beach Drive,
Okay,
the medium section. Great report. Wasn't too happy with the opening with the negatives, but you were just positive all the way through. Good to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Your point was that you had a slide that said what you will do in 2024. And it's up to us to know how you did. Will that be reported in September of 2024? Line items of what you said you would do?
Yes, sir. What you will see moving forward, if you don't mind.
That would be great.
What you'll see moving forward, sir, you'll see 2024 and success or failures.
That would be great.
And you'll see that moving forward
That would be
as well. Yes, sir. Yep.
And your comments on the golf, right on. However, I wanted to know where the other cost attributed to the residents for pool and other items. Is that separate? It's like $120 a year?
Separate revenue line item? Yes,
Yeah,
sir?
I
Yeah.
didn't see that.
We can get with you on that and show you exactly where that comes from, sir.
All right,
Yep, yep.
that's all. It's, oh, the other thing was that, being a resident for 20 years, in the last year or so, our revenue for water was based on the fact that you can't read the meters. So it's average. What will be accomplished when you get new meters? How will that increase or decrease the costs of water?
It'll be a firm number, and it would be actually, we'd be able to view it in our offices on an hourly basis. And we're expecting, once that system's in place, about a $500,000 to $600,000 revenue increase when we start making folks and businesses pay for what they actually use.
For the past?
No,
No.
we're going to start live this year, sir.
Okay.
That's all we can do. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Thank you for your comments.
Again, Daniel Garvin. I did have another question that, as I look through my notes, Tanglewood was mentioned. I don't know if many of us know how Tanglewood, or I don't anyway, let me put it that way, how Tanglewood fits in with Sun and Lake and being a cost to us.
Oh, okay.
So it's,
Want to answer?
Yeah, I can try to give a little bit of an answer. So Tanglewood's is an independent, mobile home community. So there is a lease agreement with Tanglewood where the district does not provide the same services to Tanglewood residents as it does to the general residents. So they pay assessments on a certain base, I think it's an acreage rate. And I think the only thing, they maintain their own roads. We don't maintain their roads. So there's a significant difference in services that Tanglewood residents receive as opposed to general residents.
and there's income to
We-
Sun
We
and
provide
Lake.
them with water and sewer, that's it. But they, and I think we do their mosquito spraying, but pretty much everything else they handle.
And,
But the-
and security.
Yeah, they pay an assessment. It's
Okay.
just not the same
They
assessment rate as
provide
everybody else.
security services, but we also provide their utilities for which they pay us for providing that.
Okay, but for the properties itself, is that ours? I mean, is that Sun?
No. I mean,
No,
it's within Sun and Lakes, but they don't, they're basically, there's just two giant parcels. So they don't pay a per lot rate. They pay an acreage rate.
Okay.
That's contractual that we have. I think it goes all the way back to 96.
So we don't benefit from what they're receiving rentals.
Correct. Yeah, we don't.
Okay.
But
I
there-
don't know if they mentioned, but Tanglewood is our biggest assessment.
Yeah.
They pay the most in the community of anybody.
Oh.
The hospital, I think, is second. So, Tanglewood is our biggest customer and pays the most. So they're not getting a free ride.
Right, okay, yeah.
That's probably what you were trying to.
And I'm not sure the residents here, some probably do, but have any idea of what that's about. So I just heard it the other day. Why are we paying for their pool? Why, that kind of thing. So it's.
We're not.
We don't, we don't pay for their pool.
Yeah.
Any other comments? I appreciate you coming in today to hear what our general manager had to say. I think there was a lot of information given out. And again, it's a lot of work when putting these budgets together. And I think he did a good job of presenting how and what we're spending our money on, but how we come about getting these funds or these numbers and the work that we have in front of us. As General Manager Bossert has said, again, this wastewater treatment plant, it's been something that's been hanging and being kicked down the road way too long, and we can't do it anymore. We've got a 50-year-old plant that we're relying on, and Katie bar the door if something happens out there that knocks that out. We've got to proceed, and we're going to do it the best way we can with the least amount of pain. But I think I'm sure we're going to be able to come up with something that is going to be satisfactory to the masses. Okay? With that, meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming.